Just gonna do a video now. I think on well, I've done a bunch of drug combination ones, so I don't know if this will be my. It won't be my final one. I'm gonna do one more after this one. But anyways, I'm gonna do a drug combination video on hallucinogenics. My next video is just gonna be a general, I guess, PSA about drug combinations. I might start doing drug PSAs, to be honest. But you know, my version, not the normal, moderated American style. The drugs are gonna kill you, smoke marijuana, and you're gonna eat your dog and rape your kids. Not gonna do one of them. I'm just not into them. Anyways, oh, where's my head at? Where was it at? Hallucinogens, fucking wonderful, but that's not helpful to you. You wanna know combinations? Where's my brain at today? I mean, I've done a lot of drugs. Why is this so hard for me to think about? Probably because I've done a lot of drugs. Yeah, alright. I guess I'll start with... I don't know how I'd start this. I don't know whether I'd start with... Because it's not like... So, I did the stimulants combination one. I was talking about dopaminergic stimulants. I was talking about amphetamines, methamphetamine, coke and such. But with hallucinogenics, when you're mixing them together, I mean, there's only... maybe 4 or 5 real classes of hallucinogens. I mean, there's iboga, which is sort of one kind of chemical group in itself. There's salvia, which is something completely different. There's generic tryptamines, there's phenethylamines, and then there's lysergamides, and that's pretty much all you've got, really, in terms of, you know, hallucinogens that aren't deliriant hallucinogens, if you see what I'm saying. But it's hard to just talk about, you know, a combination between tryptamines and phenethylamines. Well, it's not hard to. It's more that I have experience with tryptamines and phenethylamines with phenethylamines and all kinds of mixes. I've really done a lot of hallucinogens in a lot of ways. I guess I'll start with. I guess I'll start with bad combinations. So I find that some bad combinations are like Embomi and 2CI and 2CP with other 2Cs. I find that 2Cs do not mix well together because all the panic that you kind of get from one 2C kind of transfers to another 2C. The 2Cs do not complement each other at all. Take my word for that. I found that 2CP with 2CI, nope. I did 2CP also with 2,5 Embomi. Fuck, don't do that. Your heart will fucking absolutely race through your rib cage, and you will die. No, I'm just kidding. You probably won't die, but it's just that, yeah, you'll feel pretty fucking bad if you're taking 2Cs with other 2Cs. Kind of all the thought acceleration you get from 2Cs. It's just not nice at all, and it's kind of exacerbated when you take a 2C with a 2C. It's always sort of like, I don't know, I always get a weird sort of kind of spinning thing in my head when I take 2Cs, which is great when I've only got one 2C inside my head. But when I've got several different 2Cs, it's really kind of like a headache, but at the same time as being a headache, it's like a headache, a philosophical nightmare at the same time. And I find when I take 2Cs with 2Cs, rather than getting the kind of solution of, well, you know, that was weird and I've got things in my head, but I'm glad and I appreciate that afterwards, you know, you always get, or you often get with hallucinogens and a kind of feeling afterwards of like consolidation. Rather than getting that consolidation that you normally get with hallucinogenics, when you take 2Cs with 2Cs, or at least in my experience of taking 2Cs with 2Cs, it seems that the 2C drugs kind of instill like there's no solution. You just kind of mindfuck yourself until the 2Cs wear off on each other, or one of them wears off on the other, and it kind of ruins like if you have 2CP, obviously it's going to last longer than 2C Embomi, but it kind of ruins the experience of either one for the whole duration. So for me, yeah, 2Cs don't go well with 2Cs. 2Cs go fairly well with some of the tryptamines. I find that 2CP and 2C Embomi went very well with forchomet, and they also went quite well with mushrooms. I found actually Didn't really matter the dose of 4-HO met. Just went very well with the 2Cs. But I found with mushrooms, I took a very low dose of mushrooms just to get a kind of mushroomy effect and try to seep that into my 2C trips. And that was absolutely heavenly. The kind of physical uplifting feelings you get from the mushrooms is kind of exacerbated when you're on the 2Cs, and also the kind of natural feeling comes out a little bit. And also the craziness that you get from, like the crazy synthetic feeling that you get from 2Cs is kind of dampened down and replaced with a better trip. But also that kind of weird energy you get, it's still there. So it's like getting the mental energy of the 2Cs without the spiritual confusion of the fucking psilocybin, basically. But at the same time, you get all of the kind of natural physical feelings and kind of, I don't know, kind of mental sense of well-being that you get when you're on mushrooms at the same time. So, yeah, 2Cs and mushrooms and 4-HO beautiful, complement each other very well. I found 2Cs and other phenethylamines were just made me feel physically awful. They weren't all necessarily like combinations that made me feel mentally bad. They often did. I often felt dehydrated or like there was just too much going through my system. But this wasn't that predominant. The main thing was just, yeah, it was just too much of that like mad energy, too confusing really. I found 2Cs with enough other phenethylamines didn't go so well, right? One thing that does go quite well with pretty much everything I've found, as far as hallucinogenics are concerned, at least. Oh well, even other things, even like how do I describe it? Even like with stimulants and other things, alilescaline. I don't know if you've heard of it. Alilescaline and proscaline. They're not very strong hallucinogenics. They are phenethylamines. They're similar to mescaline, apparently. They're structurally similar, but in the real world, they don't have that similar an effect. I find them to be very, very calm, very easy hallucinogenics. They're sort of, I guess, kind of like 2CB or something like that. They're very calm hallucinogens in terms of mentally. They don't give you much of the I don't know, they give you a slight bit of peripherals, but it doesn't really matter how much you take of this. It doesn't seem to give you a massive amount peripherally, right? And but it does give you kind of that spiritual energy and that kind of out of being and a lot of like nice physical feelings at the same time. So it's a mild hallucinogenic, but I find it's kind of like if you want to have a hallucinogenic soup, by that I mean a mixed hallucinogen experience. I find one of the best absorbers or the best mixers is just alilescaline and proscaline as well, but alilescaline was just was really good to mix with things. It's like tofu, you know, it absorbs all the other experiences and you've got that nice protein base basically. It really is kind of hallucinogenic tofu. I find honestly there's not enough praise I can give alilescaline. It's just really fucking good on its own, but it's just a really good mix as far as hallucinogens go. It takes the other experience and it doesn't take anything away from it like a lot of hallucinogens do with each other or make it too much. It kind of adds to it and it takes the experience or it takes the other drug, the other hallucinogenic drug and kind of amplifies its best parts, I find. People could say to me, you know, I don't think that's true or it doesn't ring true for me, but I definitely find myself that alilescaline goes with basically every other hallucinogen, except I've never tried it with DMT because I mean, why would you mix anything with DMT? Same with salvia. So yeah, DMT and salvia, just don't mix them. There's no need to, and it just doesn't make sense. If you've taken DMT, you'll understand. If you haven't taken DMT, trust me. If you have taken DMT and you disagree with me, please let me know in the comments or send me an email or something because I'd like to hear your opinion. I have mixed DMT, but I generally don't because why would you basically? But anyways, I'm digressing. So yeah, alilescaline was and is basically, like I said, hallucinogenic tofu. Other phenethylamines, really depends on the phenethylamines. I don't know, DOC and the DOs, I don't know, they just, I don't like them that much in general, but they just don't seem to mix too well with really anything, to be honest. They're really, I'd really say they're quite off limits in terms of mixing. I've tried them with other tryptamines. I've actually tried DOC and LSD, and yeah, not a good experience. The longevity was too much, the intensity was too much. I genuinely thought I was going to have a heart attack. Obviously, I wasn't. I was just tripping. But yeah, it produced a very, very scary experience, did DOC and LSD. It's not something I would recommend. But I wouldn't recommend the DO/X series drugs as something that you should combine with other hallucinogenics or other drugs in general, to be honest. Now, onto the subject of LSD and lysergamide, since we're on that path. I don't find, honestly, that LSD mixes that greatly with other hallucinogens. Aliascaline would, it probably mix well with that. I found it was okay with like 4H or Met, but really it's quite limited in what you can do with it and what you can mix it with. It's not that really anything really ruins the experience. Like tryptamines won't ruin the experience. Obviously the DOs will. 2Cs kind of give you too much anxiety and too much just energy when you mix them with LSD. But it doesn't really make it really bad as such. The only thing that really seems to give me a bad experience with LSD is just, like I said, the DO/X series. But it's not, like I said, it's not that mixing LSD with other hallucinogens necessarily makes the experience awful, or it's just that it doesn't add anything. It just kind of, it doesn't make you paranoid. It doesn't make me paranoid per se. It just kind of, I kind of feel like I'm just ruining an experience. Like having a pure LSD experience is, in my opinion, far better than having a mixed LSD with other hallucinogens experience. Except I've never tried it with 2CB to my memory now. I probably have or may have. It's not that unlikely. And I haven't tried it with... Oh wait, I think I have tried it with MD. I think it was pretty good with MD. But I can only see it being good with MDMA and maybe 2CB, and nothing really else could really add to it. I feel like you're only taking away from the experience by mixing it with other drugs. Well, definitely with hallucinogenics from my experience. I have mixed it with a few tryptamines, and it was alright, but I felt like I was missing something that only really the LSD can give you. Same with 1P LSD as well, and Prolad. Just, yeah, I don't find lysergamides mix so well with other hallucinogens. Although, Hawaiian Baby Woodrose seems to mix okay with psilocybin, but honestly, I still feel like, again, it's better to just have lysergamides as they are, like LSD or Hawaiian Baby Woodrose, Prolad, FLAD. I haven't taken FLAD, so I can't say exactly for FLAD, but just from my experience, it seems like, yeah, they just don't. You just don't get anything extra from having it. And I know a lot of people who may have like a different mix of drugs. Maybe you've got 100 micrograms of LSD in one tab, and you've got other hallucinogens, and you're thinking, fuck what this guy's saying. Fuck that. I'm just gonna mix them, because I'm poor or because this is all I've got, and fuck it. Let's see what it does. My advice is honestly just wait. Obviously store your LSD quite well because it degrades, and try and avoid that degradation, and just try and save up for more LSD rather than mixing. That's my advice there. And on to tryptamines. Tryptamines, depending on what they are, can mix well or can mix badly. I find like AMT, for example, just doesn't mix with, well, really anything in any positive way. It's not like with LSD where it just kind of doesn't add anything. It's more like I find when you mix AMT with other, especially hallucinogens and stimulants, you just kind of get an awful kind of feeling. You kind of feel, I don't know, I kind of feel evil internally when I take AMT, with other drugs, especially other hallucinogenics. But I feel really kind of anxious and like really strong, but at the same time really upset and depressed. And I find that honestly, AMT just in general is kind of psychotic, but mixed with other hallucinogens, no, it's not my kind of thing. Dolt is a weird one. I've mixed Dolt with a few things, and it's all right, but it's something you have to be careful of. Dolt is all 5-MeO Dolt I'm talking about is already a weird one in itself. But when you start combining it with other hallucinogens, it can have really, really odd effects. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but overall, it's again something I don't find worth mixing. Now, I'll go on to other things, and I guess I'll mainly talk about 4-HOMET, 4-ACO-DMT, and 5-MeO-DMT, yeah. So I've mixed 5-MeO-DMT with allylescaline, and I've mixed it with magic mushrooms as well. And honestly, I find that 5-MeO-DMT is just one of the most perfect hallucinogens to mix in small doses with other hallucinogens, but not really with other drugs. So allylescaline, for example, I could probably mix it with other drugs. I don't mind mixing it with other drugs. It's just that, it's not the best thing to do for one's health. But I find that kind of 5-MeO-DMT is it's like having a lot of the mental effects of DMT without the kind of hallucin. It's like taking the mental effects without the visual effects. That's what I'd say. You still get the body effects, but it mixes really well with like a medium or high dose of 5-MeO-DMT orally. I find mixes really, really, really well with very low doses of phenethylamines and medium doses of some tryptamines. So yeah, 5-MeO-DMT is good. It's like it gives you some really weird physical and weird kind of mind space, and it kind of goes well with other hallucinogens, I find. Now, psilocybin is good. Psilocybin seems to, like, in large doses you can mix it with a few things. I'd say you could mix a large dose of it with a small dose of phenethylamine, depending on the phenethylamine, and have a good time. You can usually mix a very small dose of psilocybin with most other hallucinogens and generally have beneficial effects, but be careful with the DOX series. And yeah, I found as well 4-HOMET seemed to mix really, really well because it was a soft kind of thing. If you have a low dose of it, it mixes really well with allylescaline, with proscaline, and with other hallucinogens as well. But the only thing I'll say with 4-HOMET is sometimes it can kind of taper out those more exciting hallucinogens because I find it's just a bit too relaxing in combinations sometimes. It's not something if you want to have a really crazy adventure, I wouldn't say. But it is a nice thing to mix with other hallucinogens. And what was the other one I was going to talk about? Oh my god, my memory is so bad. 4-ACO-DMT, that's the one. Yeah, it's more like I don't know. 4-ACO-DMT is something. It's like a wild card. I've had it with 5-MeO Dolt before, and that was insane, and it was a terrible idea, and you shouldn't do it, and no, I shouldn't have done it, and I shouldn't ever do it again. But it was so mentally stimulating and so far out in terms of a trip that I would probably, if I found myself taking drugs again, and especially hallucinogens, I would probably give it another go. And I find 4-ACO-DMT is, a lot of people would say it's an overpowering, it's an extremely strong hallucinogen. Yes, it is, but in low and medium doses with other weird or strong hallucinogens, if you want one of those insane trips, is amazing. For if you just want insanity, mix that with other hallucinogens, and yeah, there is your nice, extremely insane trip. But don't come and tell me, oh, I had a really crazy trip, I couldn't handle it because I mixed them, because that's exactly what you should expect. But more specifically, I find it's something you can have a crazy adventure on, and you're not as worried about fucking dying as you are when you have other crazy mixes. You'll panic about other shit in your life, or like think you're going fucking insane. Absolutely, if you mix medium doses of 4-ACO DMT with other hallucinogens. But I find with some hallucinogens you just feel like you're going to fucking die when you mix them with others. And for this reason, there's a lot of weird drug combinations in terms of hallucinogens that I haven't done or haven't wanted to try or have done and really regretted. But yeah, Fourier DCMT is a good wildcard mixer, but it's not for the faint of hearted, and it's not for fun, easy experiences. It's for those completely out of the world, fucking mentally derailing experiences. And that doesn't appeal to everyone. It doesn't appeal to a lot of people. It only really appeals to the hardest hallucinogen users, for very obvious reasons. Anyway, I don't really have much more to say about hallucinogenic combinations. I could give you specific stories, but honestly, as far as hallucinogens go, in combination or out of combination, I could talk about hallucinogens for many, many, many fucking hours. I could talk for probably I could actually talk for days about hallucinogens, the hallucinogenic experience, and specific experiences without sleep, and continue without actually getting bored. Anyways, thanks for watching this drug experience report on mixing hallucinogens with hallucinogens. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and see you another time. I really enjoyed it anyway. Ciao!